Good morning, TikTok. Part 7 of how, in just 3 days now, the Sacramento County Sheriff's Department will be coming to lock me out of a home that I have lived in for the past 23 years and how I got here. I ended my last segment with sharing with you about how I was in the final school district, San Juan Unified School District, Visions in Education, how that relationship ended with me homeschooling my child because my child was removed from the public school system by San Juan Unified School District, and how, in my opinion, the advocacy and all of the things that I had been doing for many years put a huge strain on the relationship between not only my child that I was advocating for, but also my oldest child. So, as I stated, I was never allowed to just be the parent. Advocacy has taken a huge toll on not just my physical health, my relationships, but it also has created many, many barriers because, like I said, when you're dealing with an advocacy situation, you have to wear many hats. And in wearing many hats, I believe sometimes your intentions are not always seen by those that you're closest to. So I don't want to get too much into reasons why, because my reasons for the estrangement may not be their reasons for the estrangement. So I'll leave it there because that's the piece of it that I can share with you. I'd like to now move on to, again, the piece where my mortgage comes into play. As I stated, I was with Freedom Mortgage when I started making my payments to the mortgage company. I was with the Home Affordability Program I applied to the Home Affordability Program, which was a government program that gave $80,000 to homeowners who had fallen behind on their mortgage. As I mentioned previously, at one point, the past due payments in my mortgage were applied to the arrears as part of a junior lien, which was something that was allowed during the mortgage when the pandemonium was happening. And so the first payment that I got from the California Mortgage Relief Program, that's the name, California Mortgage Relief, was a partial payment, which only covered a portion of the junior lien that was applied to my home. It left about $5,300 left as a junior lien on my home, but it covered a huge portion of the past due payments that hadn't been paid. So after the California Mortgage Relief Program paid that, it took a while for the mortgage company to get it applied. I had to consistently keep up with the mortgage piece and a mortgage company to, let them know, hey, you haven't applied the payment. Even California Mortgage Relief sent emails stating that the Freedom Mortgage had not applied the payments, which was still making me appear as if I was past due. And so it took quite a while for them to finally apply the payments, which I still didn't believe were applied appropriately. But there were still monies remaining for me under that $80,000. So I applied again, and they applied the difference of the $80,000 of what they hadn't paid before to the current past due payments. So now I have two applications which total $80,000, which paid the past due payments and brought my mortgage current. Somewhat, but again, still discrepancies within the mortgage payment, which I tried to get information from Freedom Mortgage about. I asked them for a breakdown. I never received it of the payments. I asked them for information about, the junior lien and information, never got it. So it became a back and forth thing with Freedom Mortgage, who kept, denying my request for information, for validation of the debt, pretty much, for me to get information about what is actually owed and how these payments were applied and how they came forward. So because Freedom Mortgage never responded, I started reaching out to everyone I possibly could. Again, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. I reached out to DFPI, the Department of Financial Protection and Innovation, which will be important in just a moment. I reached out to just entity upon entity to get the information, try and get the information that I could from Freedom Mortgage, even though they weren't responding to me directly regarding my questions. They were sending me standard form letters, general received your inquiry things, but never really giving me the breakdown of what I had asked for. So long story short, they started then moving my home into a foreclosure, because at that point I was doing everything. I applied for a modification with them because, okay, if you're not going to, answer my questions about the payments, let's get into a modification where we can modify what that payment actually should look like. And so, again, still trying to get information about the payments, still trying to get information about the terms of the modification, which was also an issue because there was new language in the documents that they wanted me to sign, and I was very concerned about that. So I had some questions, which, again, reached out to Freedom Mortgage about. They never responded to them. They assigned a single point of contact to me, which is a requirement under the Homeowner's Bill of Rights, but I was never able to speak to that single point of contact. Whenever I would contact Freedom Mortgage, the representative, Deidre specifically, said, they just assigned those a single point of contact. You don't really get one. We're all cross-trained to handle any of the issues that you may have. So that's just a name that they put down on the contract. I'm like, well, I need one person who can specifically go through my contract and answer these questions that I have before I enter into an agreement that I don't understand or agree with. The dollar amounts are off, all of those things. And again, never got the information from Freedom Mortgage, but they continue to send me more modification documents. After the 8th or 9th set of modification documents, I said, I'm not signing any of these. I don't agree to them. I need my questions answered. After that, they placed my home into a foreclosure status, saying I was in default. I'm in default because you're not responding to my questions. You're not answering me regarding the dollar amounts that I actually owe. You're not helping me with the disputes. They never did anything regarding any of those disputes and continued on with the foreclosure process. Now, I want to say, once they started sending me the foreclosure information, although I was paying my payments to Freedom Mortgage, the foreclosure information started coming in the name of Loan Depot. So I'm paying payments to you, where I'm in a modification agreement with you, but Loan Depot is actually foreclosing on my property. So it became a very, very weird time. Also, when I noticed that Loan Depot started foreclosing on my property, I then decided, hey, there's an issue here. So I filed a lawsuit regarding the mortgage company's deficiencies because my home at that point had been sold in a trustee sale, because I still couldn't get, even though I tried to get information through them before it was sold, even up to 2 weeks before it was sold, they still never responded, but sent me standard form letters stating that they received my inquiry. We'll get back to you. I'm going to pause here, so move on to the next segment.